The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor just seconds after Ethan Cole heard the words that would change his life forever. Every conversation in the grand ballroom stopped. Crystal chandeliers glittered above a room filled with billionaires, politicians, and investors worth more money than most countries, yet in that moment, Ethan felt smaller than he ever had in his entire life. His 5-year-old daughter, Lily, stood beside him clutching his hand tightly, her tiny fingers trembling as laughter spread across the room like wildfire. And then came the sentence that sliced deeper than any knife ever could. A silver-haired billionaire looked directly at Ethan with cold amusement and said that a widowed single father from the streets had no place marrying into their family or leading a $900 million merger. The room exploded with whispers. And Ethan, the youngest self-made CEO in the room, quietly removed his signature from the contract, and walked away from nearly $1 billion. Before we continue, if you believe kindness matters more than wealth, and that people deserve second chances no matter where they come from, take a moment to like this video, comment below where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Ever Kind Stories for more emotional journeys that stay with you long after the video ends. Rain poured heavily outside the Blackstone Grand Hotel that night, washing against the tall windows like the city itself was mourning what had just happened inside. Ethan stepped into the storm carrying Lily in his arms while reporters shouted questions behind velvet ropes. Camera flashes exploded around him, trying to capture the face of the man who had just abandoned one of the largest business deals of the decade. But none of them understood the real reason he walked away. To the world, Ethan Cole was a brilliant tech CEO worth hundreds of millions. Magazines called him the blue-collar genius. Investors admired his calm mind and fearless decisions. But behind every headline was a man held together by grief, exhaustion, and a promise he made beside a hospital bed 3 years earlier. A promise to his dying wife. 3 years before the humiliation at the hotel ballroom, Ethan had been sleeping inside his tiny office, surviving on cheap coffee and vending machine dinners while trying to keep his failing startup alive. His wife, Sarah, worked double shifts as a nurse while battling a silent illness she hid from almost everyone. They had no rich parents, no trust funds, no safety nets. Just each other. And then one winter night, Sarah collapsed during her shift. By the time doctors discovered the cancer, it had already spread too far. Ethan still remembered the smell of antiseptic in that hospital room. He remembered Sarah's pale hand in his and the way she forced herself to smile even while pain consumed her body. But most of all, he remembered her final words. She begged him not to let Lily grow up feeling abandoned by the world. After Sarah died, Ethan became two people at once. During the day, he transformed into a ruthless entrepreneur fighting investors, coding software until sunrise, and building a cybersecurity company powerful enough to compete with giants. At night, he became a father learning how to braid hair from YouTube videos, packing tiny school lunches, and sitting beside Lily's bed during thunderstorms because she still cried for her mother in her sleep. Most people only saw the expensive suits years later. They never saw the man crying quietly in grocery store parking lots because he couldn't afford both medicine and daycare at the same time. Success came slowly, then all at once. A government contract changed everything for Ethan's company. Within 2 years, Cole Dynamics became one of the fastest-growing technology firms in America. Billionaires suddenly wanted meetings with him. News anchors praised his leadership. Financial magazines fought for interviews. But money never changed Ethan. He still drove the same old pickup truck Sarah bought before they were married. He still personally tucked Lily into bed every night no matter how important the meeting was the next morning. And every year on Sarah's birthday, he visited the small apartment building where they once struggled together, secretly paying overdue rent for families facing eviction. That was the side of Ethan the billionaire families never understood. The Blackstones were old money royalty. Their empire stretched across luxury hotels, shipping companies, and international banks. To them, wealth wasn't earned. It was inherited like eye color. And when Victoria Blackstone fell in love with Ethan, her family considered it an embarrassment. Victoria admired Ethan because he was different from every man in her world. He was grounded, honest, kind. He spoke more about Lily than about profits. For the first time in years, Ethan allowed himself to believe happiness might still exist after loss. But the Blackstone family never truly accepted him. At dinners, they disguised insults as jokes. They criticized his background, his public school education, even the fact that he raised his daughter without nannies. Ethan tolerated it all because he loved Victoria and because he believed patience could soften even the coldest hearts. Until the night of the merger gala. The $900 million deal would merge Coal Dynamics with Blackstone International, creating one of the most powerful tech security firms in the country. Investors flew in from around the world. The ballroom glittered with diamonds and cameras. Everything was supposed to mark the beginning of Ethan's greatest success. Instead, it became his breaking point. The humiliation started subtly. Family members ignored Lily when she politely greeted them. One executive joked that Ethan's daughter would finally experience real wealth. Another implied Ethan only succeeded because he manipulated sympathy after becoming a widower. Ethan stayed calm for Lily's sake. Then came the final insult. During the contract signing ceremony, Victoria's father publicly questioned whether Ethan belonged in their family at all. He called him emotionally unstable, claiming single fathers from broken backgrounds lacked the sophistication needed to represent billion-dollar corporations. And then, in front of everyone, he suggested Ethan should send Lily to boarding school so professionals could raise her properly. The silence afterward felt suffocating. Little Lily looked up at Ethan with confused eyes, not fully understanding the words but understanding the cruelty behind them. That was enough. Ethan slowly closed the contract folder. $900 million sat inches away from his signature. But in that moment, he remembered Sarah's dying wish. Protect Lily. Always. So Ethan stood up, thanked everyone for their time, picked up his daughter, and walked out while an entire ballroom stared in disbelief. The next morning, headlines exploded across every financial network. Analysts called Ethan reckless. Investors panicked. Social media mocked him for letting emotions destroy a fortune. But what happened next shocked everyone even more. Within 48 hours, Blackstone International's stock began crashing. Investors discovered the company had hidden massive ethical violations tied to overseas surveillance contracts. Internal leaks exposed corruption, bribery, and exploitation. The merger Ethan refused would have tied his company directly to the scandal. Suddenly, the man everyone mocked looked like the only person in the room with integrity. But Ethan didn't celebrate. Because while the world obsessed over business drama, he sat beside Lily's bed listening to her ask a heartbreaking question. She wanted to know if rich people hated them because her mommy died. That question shattered Ethan more than public humiliation ever could. For the first time in years, he broke down crying in front of his daughter. He held her tightly and explained that some people become so blinded by money and status that they forget how to see hearts instead of backgrounds. He promised her they would never measure their worth through wealth. And that night, Lily whispered something that stayed with Ethan forever. She told him her mommy would still be proud of him for walking away. Weeks passed. Then something unexpected happened. Millions of ordinary people began supporting Ethan online. Single parents shared stories about sacrifices no one ever sees. Workers described being humiliated by wealthy employers. Widows and widowers wrote emotional letters thanking Ethan for showing that love and dignity mattered more than money. One video of Ethan carrying Lily through the rain outside the hotel gained over 50 million views. Not because he looked powerful. Because he looked human. Companies started reaching out, not for mergers but for partnerships based on trust. Employees from Blackstone International quietly resigned and applied to Ethan's company. Investors realized integrity had value too. And slowly, Ethan's company grew stronger than ever before. But the greatest moment came almost a year later. Ethan was invited to speak at a charity fundraiser supporting children who lost parents to illness. It wasn't glamorous like Billionaire galas. The ballroom was smaller. The decorations simple. But the room was filled with families carrying invisible pain Ethan understood deeply. When he walked onto the stage holding Lily's hand, the audience stood and applauded for nearly 2 full minutes. Not because he was rich. Because they knew his story. Ethan looked across the crowd and saw single mothers wiping tears from their faces. Fathers holding children close. Teenagers who had lost parents staring at him with quiet understanding. And for the first time since Sarah died, Ethan no longer felt alone. He spoke not about business, but about grief, resilience, and the terrifying responsibility of raising a child while your own heart is still broken. He admitted there were nights he sat on the bathroom floor after Lily fell asleep because he didn't know if he was strong enough to keep going. The room cried with him. Then Ethan shared the lesson that changed his life. He said the world will always try to measure people by money, status, and power. But the real measure of a person is how they protect others when they have every reason to protect themselves instead. By the end of the speech, even hardened executives in the audience were wiping tears away. And in the front row sat Victoria Blackstone. Alone. Her family empire had collapsed under investigations months earlier. The wealth and prestige they worshipped disappeared almost overnight. For the first time in her life, she understood what Ethan had tried to teach them all along. That love without respect means nothing. After the event ended, Victoria approached Ethan quietly. She apologized through tears for not defending him and Lily when it mattered most. Ethan listened kindly. But some wounds don't fully heal. He forgave her, not because the pain vanished, but because carrying bitterness would only poison Lily's future. Still, he understood something clearly now: walking away from that deal had saved more than his company. It had saved his soul. Years later, people would still discuss the famous $900 million deal Ethan Cole abandoned. Business schools analyzed it. Journalists debated it. Investors called it one of the boldest decisions in corporate history. But none of them truly understood the real story. A father didn't walk away from $900 million because of pride. He walked away because no amount of money was worth teaching his daughter to tolerate humiliation in exchange for acceptance. And in doing so, he gave her something infinitely more valuable than wealth. Self-worth. As Ethan tucked Lily into bed that night after the fundraiser, she smiled sleepily and asked if Mommy could still see them from heaven. Ethan kissed her forehead gently and looked toward the stars outside the window. Then he whispered that he hoped so. Because for the first time in a very long time, he believed Sarah would finally be proud not of the empire he built, but of the man he chose to become. And if this story touched your heart, take a moment to like the video, comment your thoughts below, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that dignity, kindness, and love will always matter more than money. Don't forget to subscribe to Everkind Stories for more emotional stories that inspire hope, healing, and humanity.
If you believe in kindness, kindly please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon to get all the notifications. If you like this story, so write a comment below and share with this your friends. Thank you so much for watching.